how's it going? I am MC, and I want to start this video by saying that I am 100% a Toronto Scepters fan. This video is just about my trip to Ottawa, which is where I got this hoodie. At the end of February, my girlfriend and I went away for a weekend trip to Ottawa, which was freezing but a lot of fun. My girlfriend's a very good landscape painter. She paints a lot of storefronts and building facades in watercolor, and I tend to lean more towards drawing people and characters. But recently I've been wanting to practice drawing environments and landscapes a lot more, and this trip kind of was a perfect excuse to do that. We both decided that we'd pick a storefront that she could paint and I could draw, and we'll do them on the same scale so that when we finish we can put them side by side and basically see how our different art styles portray the same subject. We walked past a bar called the Gilmore, and we didn't actually eat there. We ate across the street at a bar called the Royal Oak. But we both really liked the sign of the Gilmore. We liked that it said Average Canadian Bar on it, and we both decided that this would be the storefront that we'd use for this project. So that's what this video is going to be, me doing a sort of illustrative landscape study, and if I'm allowed to, at the end I will show the comparison of both of our pieces. And yeah, let's get into the drawing, and I will talk a little bit more about my trip as I do. So if you're a kid in Ontario, I feel like it's kind of a gimme to have gone on like an 8th grade trip to Ottawa or something like that, but my school didn't do that, so this was actually my first time going there. We left the day after the NHL's four-nation face-off final, which, by the way, let's go Canada. I'm really hoping that the women are going to do something similar at the World Championships going on right now. But so I went on this trip well over a month ago, and if anybody has any tips on how to speed up the editing process, I would greatly appreciate it because it feels like it's never ending every time I start a new video. But anyway, we took the train from Toronto to Ottawa, and we had 3 main things on our to-do list, which were to skate on the Rideau Canal, to go to the National Art Gallery, and to go watch a PWHL game in Ottawa. And that's where I'll start. We went to TD Place to watch the Montreal Victoire play the Ottawa Charge. And like I said at the beginning of the video, both of us are Scepters fans, so we were really excited to watch a game where we could be impartial fans and be a little bit more relaxed and not have to be terrified of Marie-Philippe Poulin every time she touched the puck. I think a lot of Canadian PWHL fans could agree that we've only gotten the opportunity to be Team Canada fans for so long that it's really hard not to love the rosters of all the other Canadian teams, and pretty much the New York Sirens as well. No offense to Boston, but full offense to Minnesota. Several reasons for that. But Brianne Jenner has always been one of my favorite players, and Emily Clark too. So getting shirts of some of our favorite players that we don't always get to cheer for just kind of seemed like the perfect souvenir for this trip. So we got our Jenny and Clarky hoodies, put them on in our seats, and even though technically we were impartial fans, we were really glad to watch Ottawa play a solid game and really get to experience another team's home crowd. The Charge won 3-1, Emily Clark scored 2 goals and was flying all over the ice. She had a great game. Poulin and Stacy scored a really nifty goal right in front of us. It was a little chippy, there were a lot of battles, and the home team won, so we got to see the Ottawa Charge surge at the end, which was really cool. I had never seen anything like that in person before. And I do just really want to gush about the PWHL for a second. I don't think that we're out of the honeymoon phase yet for this league, and I don't think we should be. Everything's still so new and exciting, and just the same as everybody else keeps saying, I'm so grateful that we finally have a league like this. When I was 10, I went to my first NHL game. It was the season opener for the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Ottawa Senators, actually, at the Air Canada Centre in Toronto. I remember that Stompin' Tom Connors was there, standing on a plywood board on the ice and singing the hockey songs before the anthems. And as a 10-year-old, I think the only players that I would have known were Darcy Tucker, Ty Domi, and Matt Sundin. Probably McCabe and Cabriolet in there as well. But in the first period, I remember Matt Sundin took a puck to the face that broke his orbital bone, and he had to leave the game, so I was down to like 2 players that I knew. The game went to the first ever NHL shootout, where the Leafs lost, with Jason Spezza scoring the shootout winner. And like any good kid from Toronto, my hatred from Jason Spezza started on that night, and how good he was drove me insane until a few years later he became a Leaf that I absolutely loved, and now I would run through a brick wall for him. And even though my first NHL game was very memorable, it wasn't until a few months later that my love for hockey really took off. During a week of the 2006 Turin Winter Olympics, I was actually home from school, sick, and I was kind of lucky because it was the week that all the women's hockey was on. And that was when I really fell in love with the sport. Vicky Sanahara was my favorite player, and then just all of the women. Cassie Campbell, Jana Hefford, Megan Augusta, Caroline Ouellette, Jillian Apps, Haley Wickenheiser, Jen Botterill, Cheryl Pounder. I was just obsessed after that Olympics. So after that, my mom would start taking me to CWHL games. The Brampton Thunder were close, and a ton of the Olympic women played there, so we'd go. And this was back when games were like $15 a ticket, and you could just walk into Powerade Center and pick your spot because there weren't enough fans there for it to be an issue. And looking back, I think my mom was probably thrilled that I was more interested in the women's game than the men's, because the only way you could get a Leaf ticket even close to that cheap would have been in like a giveaway or something. So I think that probably worked out pretty well for her too. And after those CWHL games, all of the women would go out into the concourse and sign autographs. And the Olympians would bring their medals that the kids could touch and hold. And I actually have a puck that still sits on my bookshelf that I caught at one of those games and got signed by Jana Hefford, which is really cool because she's one of the execs of the PWHL now. And it's something that I know that I'm lucky to say, that my love of hockey is rooted in and inspired by the women's game, because there are so many little girls and people who just weren't able to be exposed to that from such a young age. And to have those memories of being in a rink that seats over 2,000 people, getting to walk in and pick my seat because there was maybe 100 people there watching, to now going into Coca-Cola Coliseum or TD Place that seat over 8,000 people and sell out every night is just insane. It's amazing to see how quickly the support and excitement for this league has grown, because it's what these players have deserved for so long. And how all of these women have improved so much after just a year of getting to focus solely on hockey and have that be their careers is incredible. And now that we're talking about adding 2 more teams to the league, this is a little bit of pre-expansion appreciation. We are so lucky to get to see this amount of talent so condensed into just 6 teams. It's unreal. There are so many plays from this league every night that end up being highlight reel worthy, and it's just so exciting to watch. Sarah Nurse just loves to play baseball with the puck on scoring plays all of a sudden. You've got Stacy and Poulin who score from their stomachs regularly. Hillary Knight is exactly like Ovechkin from her spot. She's just automatic. You've got such good skaters on the blue line like Renata Fast, Ella Shelton, Callie Flanagan. They just look like they're ice dancing when they're out there. The big hits that there are every single game and every single shift. When I was editing this video, I was actually watching the game where Abby Rock, the girl from Michigan, completed the Michigan for the first time in the PWHL. And then immediately after that, Teresa Venisheva was the first player ever to get 2 hat tricks in a PWHL season. And never mind Venisheva's goal scoring, her fight against Jill Saunier absolutely activated my caveman brain and was amazing. That girl has become one of my favorite non-scepters so fast and so easily this season. All of these women are just so exciting, and I'm not even remotely doing justice how good they are and how good this league is. And I'll say it again, I'm just so excited and grateful that we actually have this league. So if you want to leave some of your favorite PWHL moments in the comments below, please do, and we'll just all gush about how amazing this league is and these players are. The one criticism that I do have is that they really need to get the reffing and lining sorted out because it is terrible. Like, I didn't think anything could get worse than the officiating in the NHL or worse than umpires in the MLB, but it can. It's the PWHL. The amount of fake puck drops and players that get thrown out of faceoffs is honestly ridiculous, and it's almost every faceoff, and honestly, I don't think I've ever seen a linesman throw out a player once where I thought the player actually deserved it. And the refs either don't know what they're calling or they really don't care because it's just that bad. Every game, for every team, there are crazy missed calls, crazy phantom calls. Sometimes you're allowed to hit in open ice. Sometimes you're allowed to board a girl. And you can pretty much do whatever you want if you're the chasing defender while a player is on a breakaway. Tackle them, trip them, maul them, I don't know, it's allowed. It's gone uncalled a few times this season, most times this season, and as a ref, I don't know how you miss that. I don't know what else you're watching or what else you're looking at, but it's just crazy. They just need to really sort out the lining and the reffing, and then it'll be a perfect league. But anyway, I said that I would talk about my trip, and I just kind of used it as an excuse to talk about hockey, so I'll move on now. The Charge Victoire game took up most of our Saturday, and Sunday was our day for the art gallery. They have, or at this point probably had, an exhibit on called Gathered Leaves, Discoveries from the Drawings Vault, which is an exhibit of preliminary sketches or studies by a bunch of different artists, which I love. I love seeing the creative process of artists, especially when you get to see what that process would have looked like 100 years ago. And some of the sketches and drawings alone just looked like they could be art. As somebody who pretty much exclusively works with graphite, looking at the detail and how incredible some of the sketches were, my brain just wonders why adding paint is even necessary. To me, those sketches are finished pieces and could be framed and put in an art gallery the way that they were. But there was a Gustav Klimt sketch for his portrait of Eugenia Primavesi, a few Goya drawings, Picasso, Munch, Degas, Kandinsky, Marie Antoinette's portrait artist, Elizabeth Louise Vigée Lebrun. Did I say that right? Not sure. Sorry for the pronunciation. I'm definitely not a French Canadian. There was a drawing that I really liked, and when I looked at the plaque next to it, it was a drawing of a Roman standard holder, so of course I liked that because I love ancient Rome. I do kind of wish that I had taken more pictures or videos of some of the pieces in the museum, but I was more just enjoying wandering around and looking at all the art. There was lots that I really liked in the European section of the museum's permanent collection. They had a few Klimts, which was really cool to see because he's my favorite artist and I had never seen his work in person before. And I think my favorite thing that I saw in the museum was a terracotta relief sculpture by Joseph Charles Marin of the Triumph of Bacchus. And I got a few pictures of this piece, the whole thing and close-ups, because I might do a study of it. But the characters are really interesting, and I really loved the variety of depth in the relief carving. It goes from 3D all the way down to just etchings in the terracotta. I thought it was really cool and could be a really interesting challenge to try and draw. And I thought it was kind of funny because that was what attracted me to it and what caught my eye. And when I went back and read the plaque, this was actually Marin doing a study of one of his masterworks, and the focus of the study was depth. So he obviously did a good job because it was the first thing I noticed and what I really liked about this piece. And yeah, at a base level, just walking through a museum is always good. It's one of my favorite things to do. And I do have to say that the permanent collection of the National Gallery, I think, is a little bit better than the AGO in Toronto's. I'm not a big fan of our permanent collection here, and I get a little bored of it. So it was really exciting to get to walk around the National Gallery and see a bunch of things that I had never seen before. And after the art gallery, another long walk and dinner, we went for a night skate on the Rideau Canal. We had an extremely cold and snowy winter in Ontario this year, so we were lucky it was perfect conditions for skating the entire time we were there. Skating or walking on a frozen lake always feels a bit surreal to me. It feels like you shouldn't really be able to do it. It's kind of like when they close off the streets during Pride and you just get to walk down the middle of a street in Toronto. It's always a little bit weird, and skating on the canal kind of had that same feeling to it. We got some hot chocolate from one of the beaver tail stands and skated up and down the canal for about 40 minutes. And it's really neat to just kind of be skating through a city. We actually found out after the fact that you can skate to TD Place and check your skates at the arena during the game, and we were so bummed that we didn't do it. But on the bright side, if we had skated to the rink and not walked back to our hotel from TD Place, we may have never passed the Gilmore and wouldn't have gotten this picture for our project, so it all kind of worked out in the end. So like I said in the intro, drawing environments is something that I've been wanting to find more of a reason to practice. I'd like to be able to add environments to my illustrations and characters and be able to start to tell more of a story. I'd need max 2 hands to count how many environments I've drawn. It's not many, and like I said, my girlfriend is a very good landscape painter. I've always thought about drawing building facades like she does, so for this project I wanted to draw a building like her. She created our reference image the way that she normally would as part of her painting process, and the only thing that we changed from the reference was moving the Gilmore sign a little closer to the front of the store so that our pieces wouldn't have to be massive to fit it in. We decided to do it on 10-inch by 8-inch paper. I used Canson mixed media paper for my drawing, and my girlfriend used Canson watercolor paper for her painting. She used Denise's Embrace Opacity Opaque watercolor palette from Da Vinci Paint for her painting. And definitely just as interesting, I used a 0.3 Staedtler mechanical pencil with Pentel HB graphite, and sometimes a 0.5mm Staedtler mechanical pencil with 2B graphite when I felt like I needed a little bit of variety. But I started my drawing with a full grid, which I've never done before, but my girlfriend does it, and I wanted to mimic quite a bit of her process, and it also just seems like the best way to make sure you can be as accurate as possible, especially for a beginner. And honestly, I did think I would regret committing to this illustration. Every time I've drawn a landscape or any sort of scenery or building before, I have found it very frustrating. There have been a few times where I've actually felt like it might drive me insane and make me pull my hair out. I don't know if I happen to have had enough experience by the time I started this illustration that I actually ended up enjoying the process, but I've also never drawn a landscape like this one or just drawn a basic storefront, so it's possible that that's what made the difference. This is the type of illustration I imagined myself doing when I thought about doing landscapes. So enjoying the process and being pretty pleased with the result at the end is a good step for me. I thought I'd have more to reflect on this drawing, or at least more to bitch about, but overall I felt like it was a pretty positive experience. Just a lot of drawing straight lines, and because I'm working in graphite and black, I spent a lot of time building up different textures like brick and siding to give it a little bit more variety and making sure the whole facade didn't just blend in together. At the time of recording this voiceover, I haven't seen the painting and the drawing side by side yet, but I have seen them both separately, and I would tell you that my girlfriend did a better job, but I think she would probably try and tell you that I did a better job. We both kept the early stages of our different pieces secret from each other. We did both want to see how we would do things differently, so we wanted to make sure that we made all of our big decisions without the influence of the other, and I was really impressed with her painting when I first saw it, like I always am. I think the color just really added something for me with this particular subject. We talked about how dark the front of the Gilmore was and that she didn't want her whole painting to just be a mix of blacks, like my drawing. and I think she worked around that perfectly. I think that the pops of reds, yellows, and greens that she used in her paintings are so perfectly balanced, and with the perspective that this building is on, I think that those colors really lead your eye through her painting. I don't really know how to use color, so I don't really know how to describe its use in art, but there really is something that I just find so satisfying about the way she used it. It's a very comforting mixture of colors. It's very warm and inviting, and I think it really fits the vibe that we got from the sign of the Gilmore. I also love the color washes she used in the windows and the subtle details of color she used for the little signs. There's something I just find very satisfying about looking at my girlfriend's painting, and mine, I think, is a good illustration, but it's just gray. It's a lot of gray and there's a lot of straight lines, so I feel like there's not much else to say. But I do actually really like my illustration too. I'm pretty proud of myself for doing it as well as I did, and I'm really glad that I didn't find it super frustrating to do this time, because this is something that I want to add to my drawings, and I would hope that landscapes can become something that I start to enjoy drawing as much as I enjoy drawing people. Something I did notice and that I would like to improve on is trusting myself a little bit more and being a little bit more decisive. I really noticed while I edited this video how much I draw and redraw the exact same little part of my drawing, and more often than not, I think the drawing ends up looking the exact same as the first time that I drew it. I think I did it a lot more than usual on this drawing just because it's not something that I'm used to and super comfortable with. So I think I was second guessing myself a lot more, and it was much more noticeable than it usually is. But it is something that I know that I do a lot in general, and I think that if I just trust myself a little bit more, it'll help me make my drawing process a lot more efficient. But anyway, that'll be it for me for this one. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video. I've taken so long to work on it, and I'm really excited to get started on a new project. So take care, and you'll see me in the next one.